All right, so we're really diving deep into Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like the billion-dollar deals and all that,
Right.
but like the habits, what made him tick.
Yeah.
We're going through articles, quotes, even his biography to really try to unpack that.
It's interesting, right? Like you can look at the surface level success,
Yeah,
but we're much more interested in sort of like the bedrock.
absolutely.
Like what are those like fundamental habits and perspectives that fueled this like crazy trajectory?
Yeah, and finding those nuggets that we can apply to our own lives.
Exactly.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Gates's approach to learning,
Mm-hmm.
the guy famously dropped out of Harvard, but
Right.
he was known to audit classes he wasn't even enrolled in.
Yeah.
Like, what's that about?
Yeah, it's funny, right?
Yeah.
It's like rejecting the traditional path, but still having this like real hunger for knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's not about having arrives or having all the answers. It's more about that
Right.
constant thirst to know more.
Yeah, and it's almost like he internalized that quote that we have from Brainy quote.
What's that?
Success is a lousy teacher.
Oh, yeah.
It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose.
Right.
Like, even at the top,
Absolutely.
complacency is dangerous.
Yeah, and that learning wasn't confined to the classroom.
Right.
We've all heard the stories about Bill Gates' reading habit.
Oh, yeah.
But did you know that his family actually had a no reading at the dinner table rule?
Really?
Yeah, think about that for a second.
Wow.
This is someone so engrossed in learning, so driven to absorb information, that his family had to create boundaries just to make sure there was some presence and connection during meals.
It makes you wonder if that actually contributed to his success.
How so?
Like maybe it forced him to compartmentalize, to be
Wow.
present in those family moments,
Yeah.
which then allowed him to return to work with like renewed focus.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's not just like a cute anecdote about a bookworm,
Yeah.
but it could be a key to understanding the importance of balance,
Right.
even for someone as driven as Bill Gates.
Mm.
Carving out that space for family,
Mm-hmm.
for disconnecting from work that wasn't just enjoyable, it might have been essential.
Yeah. And speaking of essential contributions,
Okay.
one habit I feel like gets overlooked a lot is his thing with sharing credit.
Okay.
Like, even when relationships were strained,
Right.
like with Paul Allen, he made a point to acknowledge other people.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It does say something about him as a person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, beyond just being a nice guy, though,
Right.
he understood that acknowledging contributions, particularly when they might be overlooked,
Yeah.
that builds loyalty, it builds trust, and a more collaborative environment.
It's good business.
Exactly. It's not just being nice, it's good business.
And speaking of good business, let's
Yeah.
talk about Gates's willingness to take risks.
Okay.
Because, when everybody else was kind of hesitant about personal computers,
Right.
Gates and Allen really went for it.
Yeah, they really believed in it at a time when not a lot of people did.
It's that independent thinking,
Mm-hmm. Trusting your gut.
even when everybody else is saying no.
Right. But it's important to note, they didn't just blindly follow a hunch.
Right.
They had a really deep understanding of the tech at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And they knew that they were onto something big.
Yeah, and that leads into, I guess, another key to his success,
What's that?
which is financial prudence.
Okay.
This quote from the article about how, even as a billionaire,
Yeah.
he kept a just-in-case fund,
Really?
enough to cover a year of payroll,
Wow.
even when he's worth billions.
That's amazing. I mean, that really challenges that idea that, like,
Yeah.
once you have wealth, you can just spend recklessly.
Right.
But he was still thinking about, like,
Yeah.
financial stability.
Having that cushion.
Right. Having that safety net,
Yeah.
no matter how much money you have.
It just lets you be more free to make moves when you need to.
Yeah, exactly. You're not so constrained.
And speaking of missteps,
Oh.
Windows Vista.
Oh, yeah.
Even empires stumble.
That's true. Even the biggest companies, the most successful people
Yeah.
make mistakes.
Did he ever?
But I think what's interesting is
Yeah.
he was willing to learn from it,
Right.
to sort of see it as an opportunity to grow.
It's all about a growth mindset.
Exactly.
Like not getting defeated.
Right. Seeing challenges as opportunities.
And maybe that's why even after something like that, he still made sure to prioritize
What's that?
7 hours of sleep.
Really? 7 hours every night.
Yeah, Zetlin really emphasizes this in her article. Like, he never bought into the whole sleep deprivation thing.
Interesting, because that's so common, isn't it?
It is.
Like, you have to be working all the time
Yeah.
to be successful.
But he understood that rest is important.
Rest and recovery.
Yeah.
Because You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
It's true.
You've got to take care of yourself.
You need sleep to function.
Absolutely. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity.
For sure. And speaking of, when you're talking about functioning at a high level, focus, there's this thing Zetlin talks about with his coding.
Yeah, what about it?
Where he would get so focused. He would literally fall asleep mid-code.
Oh, wow.
And then just pick right back up.
No.
His brain is a machine.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like you could just get into that flow state and block everything else out.
That's deep work.
It is. And you know what's funny? Because we think about multitasking.
Yeah.
Like it's this great skill.
Right.
But really focusing on one thing at a time. That's how you produce really amazing work.
It's so true.
High quality output.
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing here is this combination of thinking strategically, taking risks, learning constantly, being humble enough to admit when you're wrong, and then having that laser focus.
It's like all these things come together to create success.
But it's not just about the professional goals, is it?
Right.
What about the rest of his life?
Yeah, what does his biography tell us about that?
It's like, if you want something done right, give it to a busy person who also gets enough sleep.
Right. It reminds me of something we saw in his bio.
Oh, yeah.
On notable biographies.
Okay.
Like we're talking about someone who built an empire.
Right.
But he also makes time for family philanthropy, even personal interests like playing bridge.
Like he's not just chasing success just to be successful.
It's about more than that.
Yeah.
It's about living a fulfilling life and finding that balance.
And we're not saying be Bill Gates.
Right. Of course not.
But take what works.
Exactly. Find the principles that resonate with you.
Okay, so what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with today?
You know, there's this quote from Gates that I think really sums it up.
Okay.
He said, and this is on Brainy quote, headlines, in a way, are what mislead you because bad news is a headline and gradual improvement is not.
Interesting. So don't get discouraged by those setbacks.
Exactly.
Don't get caught up in all the noise.
Focus on the process.
That gradual improvement.
Yeah, building those habits, asking questions, always learning.
So what habit are you going to focus on?
That's the question, isn't it?
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.